To rebuild after the disaster of 1985, Mexico City had to overcome its jitters and conquer its fear of heights, in spite of the towering risk. If defiance were a building, it might look like this. This is the Torre Mayor, the biggest tower. At 55 stories, it's the tallest skyscraper in Latin America. President Vicente Fox calls it the symbol of a new Mexico. And it is. 2 decades after the disastrous earthquake of 1985, Mexico City is no longer afraid to reach for the sky.
Just after the quake, the regulations in the city changed. Some regulations were approved that stated we could build only up to 4 floors. This fear disappeared not only with time, but also with the idea that in a city like this one, we have the best specialists, excellent designers who are able to transform all this fear into a new challenge, to move on from the ruins of a quake like 1985 to build a new Mexico, to build new buildings, and to reach for the sky like any other metropolis in the world.
And reach they did. Architect Arturo Espuro knows the Torre Mayor like his own home, all 77,000 square meters.
Torre Mayor is, without a doubt, one of the safest buildings in Latin America.
It's made of concrete, steel, and data. The analysis of earthquake damage to buildings around the world. The result, a skyscraper safeguarded by some of the most sophisticated earthquake-proof technology ever used. It begins with the architectural equivalent of shock absorbers.
The steel structure of this huge tower, these double columns that we can see, go up to the top of the building. We can also see some of the diagonals.
La función de estos amortiguadores que están colocados 98 de ellos en la totalidad.
The role of these absorbers, 98 of them in the whole steel structure of the tower, is to always keep the building vertical.
La estructura tiene como propósito mantenerlo siempre en vertical. Torre Mayor es el primer edificio.
Torre Mayor is the first building in Latin America that has these huge seismic shock absorbers.
They're built right into its frame. During a quake, a conventional building may sway precariously from side to side, but the Torre Mayor is far from conventional. Instead, it can flex in 3 dimensions. Attached to its crossbeams are 98 resilient dampers that absorb the brunt of a quake. Flexible up top, the tower is firmly anchored down below. It rests on 251 concrete pilings, driven 60 meters deep, below the marshy landfill and into firmer subsoil. In theory, the building can withstand an 8.5 magnitude quake, a force that would topple nearly any other building its size. It all sounds good in theory, and this theory has actually been tested. In 2003, a quake measuring 7.6 on the Richter scale struck Mexico City.
Mucha gente en Torre Mayor, particularmente aquellos que están en oficinas donde no hay lámparas que les permitan apreciar.
A lot of people in the building, especially those who didn't have any hanging lamps to see any movement, realized something was happening when they looked out the window and saw people evacuating the neighboring buildings.
Algunas de las anécdotas que nuestros propios inquilinos contaban después de ese momento.
Some of our tenants said they didn't even feel any shaking.
Que no sintieron la oscilación.
That proves the shock absorbers reduce the shaking of the building and make it almost imperceptible.
La oscilación del edificio que llega a ser incluso imperceptible para muchas gentes aquí.
In Mexico City, a skyscraper built to save lives is a revolution in design, made possible only by a revolution in culture. and construction standards.
Existen muchos mitos rotos por Torre Mayor.
The Torre Mayor broke many stereotypes. For instance, during the construction phase of a skyscraper, there was a tradition that somebody had to lose his life. There was a table that said, as a rule, one life was lost for every 10 floors. Nobody lost his life during the construction of Torre Mayor, and nobody has lost his life up to today, precisely because we comply with a new culture, with a different Mexico.
The Torre Mayor towers over Mexico City, a landmark of stability.